It's time to talk about F-Zero. I used some music from it a few weeks back when I played the unfortunately disappointing Dangerous Driving, and since then decided, you know what? It's been way too long since I've actually played F-Zero, so why not play it now? So here we are. The premise is simple. You pick one of 4 vehicles, one of 3 circuits, a difficulty level, and then race on 5 tracks with the aim to get the most points by finishing in the best place possible. What sets this game apart is the use of Mode 7 to present the tracks. For a launch game for the SNES in 1991, it was pretty damn impressive. Each vehicle has slightly different stats, so some are easier to control than others. Regardless of which one you decide to drive though, there is a real sense of speed in the game. You'll zoom by the landscapes below since the tracks apparently take place above things like futuristic cities. Hitting speed boosts propel you forward. Drifting around corners is satisfying. Everything comes together perfectly to ensure that you can control your vehicle. Or does it? Well, maybe I'm just rusty, but wow, I do not remember this game being this hard. The controls themselves are fine. You use B to accelerate, Y to brake, A to use a speed burst if you have any remaining of course. L and R allow you to slowly strafe left or right, and if you use these around corners, you can drift around them much easier. Even with the silent movement, the AI is relentless. See, in order to move on to the next race, you need to hit 3rd or better. Makes sense, that's a normal thing in racing games. But the catch is that you must have a minimum rank in each lap in order to continue that race. You'll see a number next to safe in the top right of the HUD. That's the target for that lap. If your position dips below that and you cross the finish line, regardless on how many laps remain, you are eliminated and need to continue to try again. And yes, continues are limited. Because of this mechanic, the AI is always a threat. For lack of better words, the main vehicles, otherwise known as the ones that you can select, are your main enemies, and will usually be in the top 3 positions if you are not. Even if you are crushing the competition though, there are lower level drones that are always on the track. Yes, they can pass you and lower your position further, but this doesn't happen often unless you are really tanking the race. If anything, they are a mere annoyance. They are solely to make you drift around them and risk hitting a wall or become a direct barrier to your progress. This brings me to the power meter. Your vehicle can't withstand infinite abuse. Smacking into things will lower your power, and if it depletes, boom! Not gonna lie, it's actually kinda cool to see your car blow up since the camera zooms out, flips around, and allows you to view the wreck. Obviously, that's not gonna get you ahead though, so smashing into things isn't recommended, but it's hard to avoid. The worst case scenario is if an opponent smacks you into a wall, as this creates a frustrating pinball effect that is hard to get out of if you can't maintain your composure. The easiest way that I found to get out of it is to constantly press and release the gas, as this seems to straighten out your vehicle enough so that you can regain control. Is it the right way to do this? I don't know, I don't claim to be an F-Zero expert, but it works for me. However, no matter how good you are, you will take damage. But it's okay. Every race has a charging strip somewhere, with most of them being right after the finish line. If you drive along these, a vehicle will appear from the top and charge you back up. You need to remain in the designated area though, so you can't swerve back and forth as the beam won't be able to lock on. I've already had a bad race turn worse because I couldn't control my car enough to stay in the lane. There are multiple things on the tracks that make the game stand out as more than just a run-of-the-mill racing game. Some tracks have wind that push you around. There are landmines that will dare you to veer off path. Rough patches will slow your car down, allowing opponents to easily catch up. Jumps are the most fun, but you need to be sure that you aren't careless and accidentally leap off of the track, resulting in an immediate demolition of your vehicle. With all of this stuff, the tracks do truly look and feel unique. The visuals help in that aspect as well. Yes, some races use the same landscapes with only minor alterations in the track layout, but when the game looks this good, who cares? It may seem simplistic nowadays, but back in the early 90s when I first played this, it blew me away. Mute City was the first track you run into, and it looks amazing, as if there's a normal city chaos just below the stage. Then you run into Big Blue, and you can see the waves of the massive ocean even as you zoom along. The developers really did a good job making the world feel alive, if that makes any sense. The soundtrack is just as amazing. Almost every retro gamer recognizes the Mute City theme, and even though I personally think there are some better songs in the game, I can't deny its everlasting hook. For example, Big Blue has a cool adrenaline-pumping guitar-like sound, Sand Ocean has an impressive, dramatic tone, and Red Canyon has a funky beat to it. You really can't go wrong with this game's soundtrack. If there's one thing that I must mention, and it's more of a tip for those that play the game without the manual, it's this. Always hold down when leaping off of a jump pad. You get more distance this way, and it's required on the final track of the Queen Circuit. Otherwise, you'll never clear the mandatory jump. I totally forgot about this until looking up the manual, so I wanted to mention it here just to save you guys the anger. And that's F-Zero. There's really not much I can say that hasn't already been said about the game, but I wanted to play it and review it myself, so here we are. Even 30 years later, the game holds up. It may not be as elaborate as other racing games, but it's incredibly fun and smooth, and that's what really matters. It's sadly lacking a two-player option, but since the game saves high scores, you can always round robin the game and see who is faster. In a nutshell, if you enjoy racing games, this one is definitely worth your time. Final score? 6 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.